Hello, listeners. Welcome to episode 18 of Priviso Live, your dose of insights and tips on all things information security, ICT legislation, and risk, brought to you by Priviso Consulting.
Hello all, this is Stephen as usual. Before we start, I want you to imagine a traditional office building. You have a secure perimeter, locked doors and security guards. But once inside, you're generally trusted to roam freely. That's how many companies used to think about cybersecurity. Perimeter defense, anti-malware, and not much else.
Well, that is an antiquated view, to be sure, but I'll go with the premise for the moment.
Well, staying with the example, what if someone malicious was to slip in? They would have free rein in the building to access, steal, or destroy anything they wanted. Every unlocked office would be vulnerable, regardless of who was wandering around.
And, of course, there are similarities in the cyber world. Protecting only the perimeter with limited internal protections leaves you vulnerable to any attacker who can bypass the perimeter defense, allowing them to explore the internal network freely.
The better approach is zero trust security, which follows the principle of never trust, always verify. It doesn't matter if you're inside or outside the network. Whenever you want to access something, a file, an application, even print a document, you have to prove your identity and that your device is secure.
To stay with the earlier example, a user could get into the building and access every room with just a key card. However, zero trust security specifies specific controls, starting with strong authentication. In our example, every door would require a unique fingerprint scan.
In digital terms, passwords aren't enough. You might need a fingerprint, a code sent to your phone, or even facial recognition.
Secondly, device checks. Your computer or phone must have the latest security updates and antivirus software.
Then the principle of least privilege. You are granted access only to the information and systems necessary for your job.
Finally, continuous monitoring. Every transaction, movement, and access attempt is logged and analyzed in real time, with anomalies triggering an immediate response. Zero trust also involves segmenting the network. Instead of one big open space, it's like having many smaller, isolated rooms.
So if an attacker does get in, the damage is limited. Because access is restricted, the attacker can't quickly move around the network and cause widespread chaos.
Zero trust is a shift in mindset. It's about recognizing that the threat landscape is constantly evolving and that traditional security measures might not be enough. It's about building a more dynamic and resilient security posture.
You know, Lynn, I can hear listeners saying, this is the same old thing with a different label. Everything we've mentioned here has been available since the apple fell out of the tree.
Well, the individual technologies have, yes. Zero trust security is as much a way of thinking about security as anything else. Let's discuss the differences between this and traditional security practices. Traditional security practices often relied on the concept of a trusted network perimeter, focusing on securing the network boundary and assuming that everything inside is safe.
Zero trust security is identity-centric, focusing on verifying every user and device's identity and security posture, regardless of their location.
Correct? Then, in a related way, traditional security works on implicit trust, trusting devices and users once they are within the network.
While zero trust security assumes no one or device is inherently trustworthy, regardless of location.
Traditional security grants users and devices broad access to network resources, while zero trust security grants users and devices only the necessary access to perform their job functions.
Traditional security tends to be reactive, while zero trust security continuously monitors and assesses security risks, allowing for faster response times.
I bet you are ticking off in your head what technologies would be required.
I was, actually, but I'll let you lead the way.
Well, identity and access management is an obvious candidate, isn't it? Multi-factor authentication strengthens identity verification, single sign-on simplifies the process, role-based access control better restricts resource access, and privileged access management controls privileged users' access to critical systems and data.
Obviously, network security plays a key role. Software-defined perimeters create secure connections to applications and services, regardless of user location. Micro-segmentation divides the network into smaller, isolated segments to limit the impact of potential breaches, while network access control ensures that devices connecting to the network meet security requirements.
Continuing with the notion that security must be proactive, data security would include data loss prevention to prevent sensitive data from leaving the organization's network, while data encryption protects data in transit and at rest.
Regarding cloud security, cloud access security brokers provide visibility and control over cloud services. Cloud workload protection platforms offer continuous threat monitoring and detection for cloud workloads across different types of modern cloud environments.
If you want proactive threat detection and response, implement security incident and event management, which should be integrated into security orchestration and response systems. This should be ideally overseen by a Security Operations Center or SOC.
Don't forget that this is over and above the top 10 security controls we discussed in episode 17.
In that sense, it indicates a different way of thinking about security. You know, Stephen, I can't help thinking there's a financial and efficiency cost to all of this.
For sure, I can think of some costs immediately.
Immediately, there will be technology costs. Implementing Zero Trust often requires significant upfront investment in new technologies, like multi-factor authentication, software-defined perimeter tools, cloud access security brokers, and security incident and event management systems.
Of course, this may require hiring or training specialized cybersecurity personnel to manage and maintain the Zero Trust infrastructure.
And there's an operational overhead. Zero Trust can introduce additional complexity to IT operations, requiring more time and resources for management and troubleshooting. Some Zero Trust controls, such as constant verification, can potentially introduce latency or performance degradation, although this is often negligible, and users may experience some initial friction as they adapt to new authentication methods and access controls.
And always the soft cost. Employees and departments may resist changes to their work routines and access privileges brought about by Zero Trust. Training employees on new security protocols and procedures may require significant time and effort.
Everything is a balancing act. These are sound principles, of course, but nothing is implemented overnight, and we will probably see a progressive realignment of security approaches that adapt to this thinking over time.
I agree. Does it feel like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic?
This is subjective, but I don't believe so. I think this approach has real merit if you can afford the cost and the cultural shift in your organization. That's it from us for this episode. If you want to hear more of the same, don't forget to subscribe or like our channel to receive future episodes. You can find us on all major podcast channels, including Apple, Samsung, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. As always, this is sponsored by Priviso Consulting, your partner when trust matters. Until next time, stay safe.